Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to be speaking again in Manchester Matters. I'm so proud to be here talking to you about Jordan's role in hosting refugees and fighting terrorism. And I'm also proud to say that according to latest international reports, Jordan was announced as the top refugee hosting country in the world and one of the top strategic countries in fighting terrorism. I will be starting by describing the location of Jordan. And I couldn't find better words than saying that it's a safe area in a war zone. So as you can see from the west borders, we're having the ongoing Palestine-Israel conflict for more than 70 years. Going to the east side, where we had Iraq war in 2003, which resulted in splitting of the country and leaving it in many internal conflicts that is still going until the moment. Going far north, where we have the ongoing civil Syrian war that is still going for more than 6 years now. So as you can see, 3 out of the 4 borders are war zones, leaving the country a bit relaxed in its south borders with Saudi Arabia. Sadly, these conflicts and wars resulted in the death of hundreds of thousands of people and civilians, as well as millions of refugees, and still counting. It also resulted in a huge instability that helped creating some terrorist bodies that are increasing the level of tension and violence in the region. Jordan's current population is 9 million, of which 3 million only are native Jordanians, which leave us with 67% of the population as refugees. And when I say native, and why do I say native? Because there are 3 million Palestinians that are considered as Jordanians because they arrived as refugees, but they were given the nationality with all rights and duties. Palestinian refugees arrived between the period of 1948 until 1967. 2.8 million the country accepted. It's like having Manchester's population moving into a country at a certain point of time. We have seen like a huge positive effect for those refugees because they were arriving at a massive growth period of Jordan and they helped creating and building up the country. But on the other hand, and in 2003, when we start receiving refugees from Iraq, it was a huge negative effect for the economy of the country. So we accepted 800,000 to 1 million refugees from 2003 and onwards. And this is like, again, it's like having the Estonians nationals moving into a country at a certain point of time. And the effect on the economy was negative. It's affected Jordan's trade deficit, infrastructure, and resources. It also it affected the trade deficit and resources, and it also left the country with uncertainty. And we have seen commodity prices going up dramatically because of the demand from the new arrivals, as well as wages were going down because we don't have any more jobs created when those refugees has arrived, and they were competing with Jordanians in the same job market. From 2011 and onwards, and as a result of the civil war that is happening in Syria, as I mentioned, Jordan accepted 1.7 to 2 million refugees from that period. That represents, it was a huge effect, and it was very clear to Jordan that it's going to affect the economy in a negative way. But the country was left without a choice. It's a moral question whether you accept people running out of death. So we should accept them and keep them in our country. And I'm so glad I'm a Jordanian. I'm so happy and proud to have a leadership and citizens with that level of hospitality. Despite the limited resources we have, the national security problems we're facing, and many other economical issues, we are still doing our duty as human beings and accepting refugees. In addition to inappropriate healthcare, the leadership concern was in providing education. Education is the key. In providing education to those refugees, because it's the first defense line, not only against poverty and unemployment, but against the extremist terrorists that are targeting young and uneducated people. And I'm happy to say that Jordan extended its role to be involved, in addition to education, to be involved in physically fighting those terrorist bodies that are existing in our neighboring countries, and as well as being a strategic ally for the set of countries that are fighting terrorism and having that topic on the top of their agenda. Terrorism is not a new phenomenon, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. And it involves activities that are based on hate to frustrate and terror people. And it gets more terrifying when it gets to be attached with a religion. This is where it's important to remember what Islam stands for. And I couldn't find better words than the one used by our King, His Majesty, King Abdullah II, speaking in the European Parliament 2 years ago.
More than 1,000 years ago, before the Geneva Conventions, Muslim soldiers were ordered not to kill a child, a woman, or an old person, not to destroy a tree, not to harm a priest, not to destroy a church. These are the same values of Islam we were taught in school as children, not to destroy or desecrate a place where God is worshipped, not a mosque, not a church, not a synagogue. This history, geography, and future bind us. Let no one separate us, because together we can create pillars of mutual respect that will support the common good for generations to come. Thank you.
So that was the King speaking in the European Parliament. And amongst my classmates are Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, and Jews. All religions, all beliefs, without any exceptions, come with a message of peace, love, and kindness. And our role as a global citizens is to raise awareness in disconnecting these activities in what these terrorists are doing, and not to let them separate and confuse us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.